So today, I begin thinking about America, the land that you love, the land that I love, that city on a hill. And of course, I had to confess that the light on that hill is a shimmer compared to what it used to be. I believe we all must make that confession. That America is experiencing a very unusual time. And I wanted to make it all make sense for you. First of all, I don't want to give you hopium for America. And yet I know who America is. Very few podcasters understand that America is truly first in the mind of Yahweh. Most people don't know that America are the descendants of the lost tribes of Israel. Trust me, I can prove it. Go to fhtv.tv, and I have many videos there about our national identity. But I also know that the end of all things is coming. As a Bible reader, I know that one day America will face the same thing her grandfather faced. Now, what do I mean by her grandfather? Well, so far, America's grandfather and America's father have both fallen into oblivion. And unless you look at your family's history, then you don't understand the family traits. You don't understand the family curses and the family blessings. Tonight, I'm going to reveal to you America's grandfather, and I'm going to show you what you need to know. And if you're taking notes tonight, get ready. There's going to be a lot of them. Because I want you to know what you're fighting for. America's grandfather is none other than the first republic that ever existed in the history of the world. Yes, Rome. Now, anyone that's been to college or to university, you know that you will spend many hours in a classroom hearing professors lecture you on the fall and the rise of Rome. And I'm not going to go into all of the details of that great empire, but Rome is the grandfather of America. And there is a reason that we need to study Rome tonight, and it's because the republic that you love so much, the rule of law versus the rule of man, I've taught you all those things, it finds its genesis in the Republic of Rome. Rome was governed by the laws created in the legislature rather than the whims of a man or a majority. So if you're going to understand the Republic of America, number one, you've got to rid your mind of the lie that we are a democracy. Now, I'm not going to teach on that tonight. You can go to fhtv.tv and type in the word America 101, where I explain the great difference in a democracy and a republic. Democracy is demonic. I'll say it again. You can put that in your notes. Democracy is demonic because demon powers have always ran in the majority, always. When the Bible speaks of righteous people, law-keeping people, it's always a minority. So anytime you find the broad way where all the people are going, That's the way of demons. They're leading the army like the Pied Piper of Hamelin. The children go running after this sound that's in the air. But there's another group of people, such as you and I, that have seen the light, and we choose the rule of law rather than the rule of the majority. Now, Rome was the very first civilization that established a republic. You know the end of that story. You know that that republic no longer exists. Now, the Word of God tells us that if you want to know the future, you must look to the past. Why is that? Because the more things change, put that in your notes, the more they stay the same. The more things change, the more they stay the same. There are two things that never change: God, Yahweh, and man. God is always good. Man is always rebellious. He who does not study history and learn from it is bound to repeat it. So tonight I want to give you Professor Toto's perspective on the grandfather of America. As I said earlier, both our grandfather and our father, which was Great Britain, because Great Britain came out of Rome, the United Kingdom, both have fallen as world empires. Now, many people don't understand that America is an empire in the truest sense of the word. We are an empire. The reason we're an empire is because, unlike China and unlike other nations that are truly one nation, subdued for one nation, not so with America. America is a land that was conquered, and when we established the American government, we ingested sovereign nations. Okay, stay with me. Wake up, everybody. You're going to learn something tonight. Tonight I'm teaching. We ingested sovereign nations. Now, to date, we have ingested 50 sovereign nations that are sovereign unto themselves. They are literally nations. Technically, I live in the nation of Mississippi. We have our own president. He's called a governor. We have our own Congress. We govern ourselves. Therefore, we are vassal states, if you will, of the American empire. Many people don't think of America as an empire, but we are an empire in the truest sense of the word. In ancient days, you joined an empire for protection. You joined an empire for commerce and for trade. We're no different. The only reason Mississippi benefits from the empire is we get money to build our interstates. We get money for our schools. We get great benefits and legal privileges for being part of the empire. Before there was America, there was Maryland, there was Rhode Island, there was Virginia, sovereign nations unto themselves. Now, everybody has an opinion of what happened to Rome. There's a whole list: inflation, barbarians, illegal immigration, military demise, entertainment, sexual orgies, out of control spending. And those are all true. They're all facts and they are all correct, but they are not the reason that Rome fell. They are the symptoms of the reason. Tonight, you're going to learn the reason that Rome fell and the reason that America is not far behind her. Without a deliverer, without a Jeroboam. And I'll talk more about that in just a moment. Remember, the issue is never the issue. What looks like the problem most of the time is just the symptom of the problem. Why did Rome survive? Many times, Rome bounced back. Rome had suffered with inflation, illegal immigration. Many times, Rome existed for 1,000 years and a little longer than that. It existed for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years, whereas America's only 300 and some odd years old. Rome was 1,000 years old, and it had suffered financial problems. It had suffered what all nations suffer, and it bounced back every time until it had no bounce back left in it. And what I want to get to tonight is why it ran out of bounces. What was it, besides inflation, besides all these things, what was it that brought it to its proverbial knees? Why were they not able to keep bouncing back? To understand the collapse of Rome, it is not enough to look at physical factors. The carnal mind wants to look at the physical factors, such as illegal immigration, which was a huge part of it. And I'm going to talk about that tonight. Oh, I'm running out of time. Maybe I ought to just do this Tuesday night. Oh, Lord, I didn't realize it was this late. I may just do this Tuesday night. I didn't know it was so late. Anyway, all right, I'll continue until if you need to go, feel free to go. I love you. I'll be here Tuesday night, but I'm going to continue because I think we need to understand this. There were three things that brought down the Rome, our grandfather. And it was not inflation. It was not those things. Those were symptoms of the problem. They lost three things. Three things. Put it in your notes. These three things are the reason, not the symptoms. The reason. We're seeing the same thing in America. We're being distracted by the symptoms of crime and illegal immigration without recognizing the three problems at the root of it all. A loss of identity, a loss of vision, and a loss of patriotism. Put those three things down. Now I'm going to explain what I mean by that. The intangible things that I just mentioned, vision, patriotism, and identity, are things you cannot see they're intangible. Now, it's hard for historians to write down that that's the reason Rome fell, because all a historian can do is look at the tangible things, such as invasions of the Ostrogoths and all of these other armies that came against Rome. But we must understand the reason. Now, it would have been very easy for 5th century Rome to draw false comfort from the crisis of their past. I want you to listen to what I just said. We must be very careful in America to get rid of this false comfort from our past. I'll explain it like this. We survived problems in the past. We can do it again. I'm sure that's what they said in Rome right before their fall. We are divided, Professor Toto. Yes, but it was worse in the Civil War. And we survived that. I agree. Yes, Professor Toto, we have enemies. Russia, China, Iran. But Pearl Harbor was more dangerous than that, and we survived. Yes, Professor Toto, the economy is struggling, but America survived the Great Depression. We did it then, Professor Toto. We can do it again. You're right. If we have the X factor, which is what I'm going to teach you tonight. There is something missing when the bounce back disappears. Rome had the X factor. You know how in an algebraic equation, this plus X equals this? X is the hidden, mysterious ingredient. That when that ingredient disappears, there was a reason we survived the Great Depression. There was a reason we survived the Civil War. There was a reason we survived all of these things, Pearl Harbor, because we had the bounce back. We had the X factor in us. Now, the X factor creates the ability to bounce back. I pray I'm not boring you tonight. I do hope that I'm not, because I want you to understand, you must understand what's missing in America now, or we will not be able to bounce back anymore. What was the difference in Rome all the times they came to the brink of disaster and they bounced back? What makes the difference in navigating stormy times or smashing on the rocks? That's my question to you tonight. What makes the difference in troubled times? Every country goes through troubled times, I agree. But in America, what is the difference in stormy seas and crashing on the rocks? I hope you understand tonight by the time I get through with this monologue. I'm not going to give you world history tonight in Rome, but I will highlight a couple of things. Rome was crumbling and no one wanted to admit it. However, in the 3rd century, a few leaders stepped up that saved Rome from a fall and caused her to bounce back. Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you what those leaders did. They reminded the citizenry of MAGA. They reminded the citizenry of how great Rome was. They reminded the citizenry that Rome was the answer for the whole world and their problems. They united the citizenry around this idea that Rome was what the world needed. An emperor in AD 270 by the name of Aurelian, he drove back the barbarians, rebuilt the military, straightened out the financial mess. He reunited an empire, and the Senate voted him as Restitutor Orbis, which means restorer of the world. Ladies and gentlemen, I see a parallel with Donald Trump and Aurelian, because Aurelian was never supposed to be the emperor. And I'll tell you why. The things that he brought to Rome kept it from falling when she was at the brink of her fall. But here is what's so interesting about Aurelian. He was not even a Roman. He was not part of the Roman system at all. He was an outsider that just believed that Rome was the greatest thing that ever existed. He loved Rome and what Rome represented. Now, the next leaders of Rome, Claudius Gothicus, Probus, Diocletian, none of those men were Roman. They were all from the Western Balkan nations that had been ingested into Rome. They were immigrants, if you will. They were not part of the native-born people. They were brought in legally, and they fell in love with Rome. Now, every empire in world history, their best and their brightest, were not seeking to lead Rome or their nation that they had been brought into. Most every smart person was trying to get away from their captors, but not so in Rome. Everybody wanted to be Roman. That's right. Aurelian came from the Balkans, became a Roman citizen, loved everything about Rome, and then led Rome because Rome was ruled by the law. And therefore, Rome was what everybody wanted to be. Even the people they conquered did not want to be free from Rome. They wanted to lead in Rome. If Rome had a single special power that contributed to its epic lifespan, here's what it was. It had an ability to convince the people that it conquered that they were Romans, just as Roman as the native Romans. They had an ability to Romanize them and teach them to make America great again, or to make Rome great again. Everyone that they brought in immigration, they Romanized them. And there was a vision and a confidence behind it that motivated Romans and even the non-Romans to keep Rome alive. Everyone wanted to be Roman because of the benefits of a Roman citizenship. Even the Apostle Paul was so proud of his Roman citizenship. Rome believed that it was the best, and it was. As a matter of fact, a Greek scholar by the name of Polybius concluded that Rome's system of government, a republic, was the best that man had ever invented. They loved Rome so much that in 91 BC, there was a war in Italy against Rome, but not to come out of Rome, but because they wanted full citizenship in Rome. Roman citizenship was a status symbol, but it also came with rights, freedom of speech, freedom of religion. It came with rights that were fundamental in its constitution. Now, I'm going to move quickly because I want to bring you to what brought it all to an end. Two Roman generals by the name of Sulla and Marius, they destroyed the republic. They turned it into a dictatorship with executive orders. They got rid of the rule of law, and the rule of law became the rule of man, and then the domination of Roman freedoms. And here's the question that destroyed Rome. As they begin to lose their freedoms given to them by the rule of law, as they begin to lose their republic for a democracy and a theocracy, the question then came into play: if Romans are not free, what's the point in being a Roman? And this is key for Americans to keep in mind. If Americans cannot be free, then what is the point of loving America? Now, in these last few years of the Roman Empire, they began to bring in immigrants, and the immigrants were having more children than the native Romans until they could not Romanize these immigrants. They brought German people. The Germans began to come 10-1 to the native Romans, those that were born there and raised there. And wide open Roman citizenship was given to everyone that wanted it without being Romanized. In the beginning, the citizenship of Rome meant you took the identity of Rome. You took the language of Rome. You were proud to be an American. You were proud to be Roman. And as long as that pride was there, that was the X factor that gave Rome the bounce back every time they nearly fell. And what happened was they brought these Germans in larger numbers without Romanizing them. And before you know it, instead of being Romans, they were German Romans. They were African Romans. They were Asian Romans. They were Mexican Romans. They were Latino Romans. They held on to two allegiances and lost the wonder of Rome. They lost that glimmer in their eyes that Rome was the best. And instead of now wanting to become like Rome, they held on to two allegiances. The arrival of these Germanic tribes brought the end, and the attacks came after that. Now, the Goths, which came in as an army to attack Rome, they were allowed to settle in Rome without becoming Roman citizens. They were allowed to live there on a visa, if you will. They were allowed to move in houses together, 20 people in a house. They were allowed to come in and work in Rome without becoming Roman. As these Germans began to come in, they were allowed to keep their own identity. What began to happen in Rome was the loss of national pride in their nation. That is why you cannot be an African American. The minute we started this about 30 years ago, African Americans, Latino Americans, Italiano American, you cannot have two allegiances without the pride of America. The X factor is gone. And this is why God, Yahweh, raised up Donald Trump to bring back the X factor that is necessary for America not to fall. We are falling, and we can get back up. There is bounce back left in us, but we must have the X factor. America must be the greatest nation in the world in our belief system. We cannot just be one of many. Now you know why Donald Trump's mantra was America first. Without that, America has no bounce back left. When we lose our sovereignty, we have lost our stability. The minute you open up the floodgates and you allow the Latinos to come in without learning English, without thinking that America is better than Mexico, without an admiration and a willingness to do it the right way, then you are part of the demise of America. Rome. No one seemed to see the need or the purpose of Romanizing the Germans or the Goths. As they came to the end of their existence, it was because they were coming to the end of their apple pies and cherry pies and their flag. I'm going to tell you right now, if you don't have a flag waving in front of your house, you are the problem. If you don't, we have lost, ladies and gentlemen. I've got to go. My time is gone. We are losing our national pride. The minute that Rome no longer saw the need to Romanize the Goths is the moment Rome was no longer a superpower. America is crumbling as a superpower. But God, but Yahweh always raises up an Aurelian to stop our demise, to restore our pride, our reason for existing. This is who Donald Trump is. He went to the United Nations and said, "I'm here for the greatness of America." And everyone shivers. No one believes America's great anymore, except for her patriots. Our borders are diminishing. So what caused the fall of Rome? You can focus on military weakness. You can focus on economic turmoil. All that's true, but it's not the reason. Why were those barbarians that was invading Rome, why were they not turned into Romans like they were at the beginning? Why? Because when you lose your national sovereignty and your national pride, you lose your X factor. You lose that part of the equation. Leo Tolstoy wrote in his book, he described an unknown factor called X, which along with all the material components of an army, you can have the tanks, you can have the battalion. Do you know why Russia cannot destroy Ukraine right now? They have the X factor. Russia's got the military, but Ukraine has the X factor. In America, we've lost it. The X factor is that spirit in an army, that greater desire to fight and to face danger for your nation. Often in a war, it is the X factor that makes all the difference, not the weapons, not your strength. An empire like America must have an X factor. And I'm now going to tell you how to know if we still have that X factor. Only Donald Trump cared enough to bring it back to us. And without his return, I say to you tonight what I don't want to say. Without a man that truly believes in America, I don't know if we have the bounce in us anymore. Here's how you know. You have to ask these questions. Number one, is the empire worth dying for? Is this empire, America? Do you know there was a time where you would have answered that question with a resounding yes? Because of the message of America, freedom for mankind. We were the last frontier of freedom. That was worth dying for. Individual liberty, justice for all, worth dying for. And now those freedoms of speech, those freedoms of religion that we were willing to die for are slowly disappearing. So now you have to wonder, if we're not free, then what is our value as American citizens anymore? Amen, Linda Andreas. We can each bring that X factor back, but we have a leader that God raised up, Donald Trump, that put it back in us. And now we are the Trump harvest. We can take and put it back in our local communities. I want to challenge every one of you. My time is gone. I've got to go. But I want to challenge you this July the 4th, this year. I want you to do stupid stuff in your town. I want you to make that your biggest holiday of the year besides the holy days of Passover, Tabernacles, and Pentecost. I want you to have street parties. I want you to have so many flags that the zoning department comes out to write you a ticket. We must bring back the bounce in our nation. The next question, are the values of America worth imparting to the next generation and to teach to new immigrants? Is it worth setting aside my own ambition in the name of America? Will it succeed? When the answer to these questions, the one I just asked, will America succeed? She will with strong, God-fearing leaders. But you never place your bets, or especially your blood, on something that you cannot answer yes to that question. Will it succeed? Those men that died in 1776, they believed it would succeed. I don't know if we have that belief anymore. Donald Trump restored it to us. When the answers become no to those questions, I hope you wrote those questions down. I'll repeat them quickly. Is the empire worth dying for? Are the values worth imparting to the next generation? Are they worth teaching to new immigrants? Will it succeed? If the answer is yes, you've got the bounce. You've got the X factor. If the answer was, I hope so, you have no bounce. You have no X factor. When the answer becomes no to those questions, America dies. Just like Great Britain, the United Kingdom. It's over. That was our father we came out of. They're dead. The empire gone into the history books because they lost their vision of greatness. They allowed people to convince them they were colonizers. They allowed people to convince them that they should be ashamed of their empire. And they did. They became ashamed. Prince Charles just apologized. Ladies and gentlemen, I never apologized for any of America's history because I wasn't in that history. I preach her greatness. As I close, I want to show you something. Put this in your notes. That's going to show you why I fear for America and why we must have Donald Trump back in the White House. In 2004, 91% of Americans were extremely proud to be American. And the United States ranked first in national pride. Did you know that? That was in 2004. However, in less than 20 years, we've had presidents that said we need to fundamentally transform America. In less than 20 years, there's been a stunning reversal that tells us of a dire future for the United States of America without a strong leader that will restore MAGA, that will restore that pride and put red hats back on your head and flags in your yard. Here's the numbers today. A recent poll revealed that a record low 68% of our citizens are proud to be American. However, listen closely. Our two youngest generations, the millennials, 38%. are proud to be American. But our Generation Z, 16% are proud to be Americans. We have failed. We have failed our children. We have failed this America. We have failed. You know why? Because we don't want to get involved in politics. You know why we failed? Because we're too busy to teach American greatness to our children. I'll close with Proverbs 29 and 18. Where there is no vision, all the people perish. Notice the people. It doesn't say the person, but the whole empire perishes when you lose your vision. America has lost her vision. Donald Trump came to restore it. That's why he received the most votes of any sitting president in our history, because he restored our vision. He caused us to believe again, just like Ronald Reagan did, in the greatness of America. America began as a shining city on a hill, but how many Americans still believe in that vision today? A large number believe that America's impact on the world has caused damage and evil. When we get to that point, we've lost the X factor. Do America's young people have pride in this nation? Would they sacrifice their lives for this country now? Do they have a vision of why it should be preserved? Beyond because we all benefit? Are immigrants brought in manageable numbers so that they can have instilled within them the awe of America? These questions matter. Our vision has failed. You and I have got to come to the understanding before I leave tonight. Donald Trump alone cannot restore that vision. Mom and dad, grandmother and grandfather, thousands of you are watching me tonight. I told you at the beginning of my monologue, I asked the Lord why I'm still here on this microphone in an unpaid position. Why am I here? It's because my calling is to help bring back America's missing X factor. And now I ordain every one of you to be ministers of the greatness of America, to teach it to your children, teach it to your grandchildren, get flags back in their lives, teach them how to cover their hearts, teach them how to take off their hats, teach them how to sing God Bless America, teach them how to sing This Land Is Your Land, This Land Is My Land. Teach them the vision so that we will never perish.
God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountains to the prairies to the oceans, white with fire.
I asked for the nation in Jesus' name. I asked for America. I call her by name. I present her to the Father in Jesus' name. I ask for America. I call her by name. I present her to the Father in Jesus' name. With the congregation sing, I ask for America. I ask for